My name is Tommy Hughes. I grew up in the western part of North Carolina in a place called Wilkesboro. And my current job at the Wildlife Commission is eco-regional supervisor for the coastal portion of the state. I graduated from NC State University with a BS degree in wildlife biology, and then went to work. Well, I grew up in a hunting family. My grandfather hunted, my great-grandfather hunted, my father hunted. And kind of hunting gave me a lot of interest in wildlife. And I think that's what kind of got me going in that direction. I had interest in the game species, I guess, to start with, because that's what I was most exposed to. And that kind of got me interested in pursuing a career in wildlife. First job, I worked for the Department of Defense. I worked for them for about 2 years at Fort Bragg at the Wildlife Branch. And I did a variety of work with them. I worked through surveys. We initiated a lot of work that we were doing at Fort Bragg then, as far as deer data collection, doing a lot of work with bobwhite quail, as far as some basic data collection, habitat work. I worked on fish ponds. We did a little habitat work. So I got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas while working at Fort Bragg, and got to see some really unique stuff that goes on there that you probably will never see in any other part of the world. So I was fortunate enough to have a boss that when he hired me as a temporary, he was just building a program. He said you can do as much as you want to do or as little as you want to do. Well, I was really interested in doing everything I possibly could do to get as much experience as I could. Well, one person I think that was really important to me early in my career was Russ Oates. He was actually a biologist with the Wildlife Commission and came to Fort Bragg. Russ was a very good biologist, very professional, took a lot of time to show you stuff and explain things to you, and help build you as a better person as far as being capable of moving up within the agency. And then, you know, working in the career, you know, I worked, Earl Gillis was a supervisor of mine. Earl was always real good about giving you good advice, steering you in the right direction, and giving you opportunities to do work that will allow you to learn more in your profession. Until I was working at Fort Bragg in temporary positions, you know, when I graduated from school, there wasn't a lot of permanent jobs out there. So I took the first thing I could find, and then there was a technician position opened up in Crofton. So I went to the Wildlife Commission as a wildlife technician. And then from there, I worked as a technician, and I was promoted to a district biologist, and then I got promoted to a management biologist. And I worked as a management biologist for 17 years, a long time. And then when my regional supervisor that supervised me retired, I was promoted to his position. Well, the changes that occurred when I first started to where I am now is astronomical. I remember activity reports I did with a Remington typewriter that was probably used in World War II, that threw letters that looked like the Unabomber had been typing on it, to where we would now have computer programs like Famers that we can go in and do our activity reporting and all that we do with that federal aid reporting. All the reports I used to do in federal aid as a management biologist, you had to pull out your calculator and you did all this by hand. And it would take you days, you know, to calculate all the accomplishments that you had, the unit cost, and what you deviated. And when we went to where we had computers, you could do all that work in a matter of a day or two, you know, because it was just a much better way of handling the data. I remember trucks that we used to have, you had to request air conditioning in an FM radio. It had to be specified as a justification, something optional, because that wasn't standard. A lot of the wildlife work we did, you know, we did a lot of survey work. Whitetail deer was really important back in those days. So as a district biologist, I was involved in the very first, what y'all call DMAP Day. It was called Private Lands Antlers Deer Program when it was first started. And there were 9 pilots in the state, and I had a good portion of them in the district I worked as a district biologist and the pilots. And I saw that program as a district body just grew from a pilot that I had over 40-some deer clubs that I managed. I've seen land acquisition go on the coast from the Wildlife Commission really not acquiring any land to where we've acquired over 300,000 acres of land just in the coast. So there's been a lot of changes in the Wildlife Commission. Well, for somebody starting out today, get all the experience you can get and get a variety of experience. I think it's important not necessarily to be an expert on one thing, but to try to be a journalist, be what I call myself. I'm a master. I'm not a master of anything. I'm just a jack of all trades. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff because I've been exposed to it. And I think in your profession, particularly starting off, the more general knowledge you have, the better off you are. Don't be afraid to work. You know, people appreciate and they respect somebody that's willing to put in the extra effort and be conscientious of what they're doing. That will get you noticed and that will get you hired. Well, probably, I can think of a couple, really. One being the land acquisition program. When I came to the coast as a management boss, the Wildlife Commission did the land acquisition. The first land acquisition project I worked on was in about 1987 with the Roanoke River project, where we bought a piece of property that was valued at $75,000. And I thought at that time, man, we won't ever get any more money than this to buy land. Well, the next project I worked on was probably $150,000, $200,000 project. And I thought, man, we will never see more money than this for land acquisition. Well, from then on, every project I worked on was at least $1 million. And I worked on projects that have been successful that have gone as high as $10 million. I've seen major acquisitions like Suggs Mill Pond, which I was right in the middle of that, working on that acquisition. The Roanoke River stuff, I was involved in all that. J. Morgan Futch, I was involved in that one. Texas Plantation, I was involved in all the major land acquisitions we've had in the commission. I've been a point person for that since we started acquisition. And I'm real proud of the land we've owned because we've caught some really prime pieces of property that are important to wildlife. They're important for the longevity of wildlife as far as corridors, but they also offer sportsmen places that they can go and use. So land acquisition is really important. I look at some of the work we've done with our waterfowl program. We have done significant improvements to our waterfowl impoundments. While I've been here, we've been very successful in getting some NAWCA grants, several $1 million NAWCA grants to improve infrastructure and our ability to manage our areas. Suggs Mill Pond, Holly Shelter, Goose Creek Game Lands, Roanoke River, Texas Plantation is getting ready to be the next one we do, J. Morgan Futch, North River. These are all projects that I've been involved with improving waterfowl habitat on our areas, and even Dare County over there on the game land we have there. We did work on that impoundment there that's just a watchable wildlife area. I think the most challenging issues we have now is there's so many users of game lands than what we traditionally used to have. You know, a long time ago, the users we have were pretty much hunting, fishermen, trappers. Now we've got a lot of different users. We've got bird watchers, we've got hikers, we've got bikers, we've got geocachers, we've got astronomy people. And all these different people want to use the game land. And sometimes they all want to try to use the game land at the same time. And those conflicts between those users are sometimes not compatible. And trying to work out, you know, that use where the different users have opportunities to use these areas, but in a way that they don't conflict with the other users and don't jeopardize the species that we manage these areas for. Because I'm a very strong proponent that the reason people want to come to the lands we have is because we manage them good. We have resources there that they want to see. And if we don't manage these lands well, the resources will not do as well. They'll be depleted or just decrease and go away, and there won't be the reason for people to come to these lands. So trying to manage the different people, and like I learned right out of school, they said 90% of wildlife management is people management. There's no doubt about it. You know, you really have to try to manage those uses. Well, I think some of the things you deal with would be, you know, issues where you don't particularly agree with the direction you may be going. You don't think it's a good direction to go. And like I talked about a little earlier today, some of the bear stuff that was done at Van Swamp, you know, I was not the only one, but I didn't think that was a good direction just to open it up. I really thought that was not going to be a positive. We worked through that. I guess we demonstrated that that was not the proper way to manage a bear population. We learned from that and convinced people we don't need to do that in the future. So the other lands that we brought into the program allowed us to use that as kind of like a teaching scenario, not make that same mistake twice. And I think that can be difficult at times. You know, sometimes we had some difficulties when we were really short-staffed. You know, we went through a period there of about almost 3 years of being extremely short-staffed. We have had openings, we weren't being able to fill those openings. And it put a lot of strain on everybody because we were still trying to do the same amount of work that we did, but we were about 25% below normal staff. Well, I think the high point is looking at what we've all accomplished. You know, the people we've hired, we've got outstanding staff on the coast. They're young, they're energetic, they're dedicated, and looking at the good work they're doing. I mean, that's makes me very proud to know that I've had a lot to do with people that have been hired within the region I'm in. You know, when we've got all our temps and fully staffed, there's about 46 people that are in the region that I supervise. And I got to thinking the other day, out of that number, I've probably been responsible for hiring probably close to 35 or 40 of them that are there, either hiring them or promoting them. So, you know, I'm proud of our staff because, you know, nothing ever happens without the people that make it happen. You know, I might be a supervisor, but I can tell you, I don't do all the stuff that you see done. There's people out there where the rubber, you know, where the rubber hits the road to make that happen. That's been real satisfying to me. You know, on a sad point, I don't know that I really have any sad point of things. You know, I look at my career, you know, I've been lucky to move up through the ranks and do some things I thought were really important. I can't say that I have any regrets. And, you know, there's been some things that I wish would have happened. You know, lands we may have been able to acquire that we just didn't quite get for one reason or another. Or something that we were managing at the time that something just didn't turn out exactly the way we thought. But in the scheme of things, those are pretty minor disappointments, and they're not permanent because somebody will come behind me and probably do a better job than what I'm doing, and they may be successful in that next time that piece of property comes up for sale, or and that opportunity to manage something a little different comes around. You put me on the spot here now, trying to think of something. I've had a lot of interesting stuff happen to be in my career. I've been involved in a drug bust that we didn't even know we were going to get involved with at the time we were doing a survey of being an enforcement officer. They ended up with two drugged up people so out of their mind they didn't know what was going on. I've been involved with Dale Davis where we were tearing a gate down. The people threatened to kill us, but Dale told me he didn't take that personal. I had a little different opinion of that. I was involved in shooting a turkey net, which you'll probably see this one day because I know this is on video, at Cherry Point, where Bobby Mandry, Bill Rogers, and myself were trapping turkeys. And we had a bunch of turkeys on bait, probably close to 30. Shot the net. I was the first one out of the tent. And as I'm running down towards the net, I noticed a lot of turkeys leaving the site, not under the net. I got down there and wasn't a turkey there. Well, come to find out, the first rocket you could see deployed just like it should. The second and third rocket broke the link on the chain. So it didn't really deploy the net. And these were brand new rockets with brand new chains on them. Come find out there was some defective chain is what we learned later. And there was some real choice words I had to, I used that day. I probably shouldn't repeat. But that was kind of, wasn't so much fun at the time, but I guess it's going to be funny at the end. And I've trapped alligators a lot of places in southeastern North Carolina. I've got bears out of backyards, go get bears out of trees. They told me, office, go get this bear I've done. It's just a lot of stuff I've gone and done that's been kind of interesting. Well, I think there's several things. You need to have a good technical background. I mean, the knowledge base is important. You need to have a personality where you can work with people. Because you're going to be dealing with people all the time, and that's important. You've got to be able to sit down on the back of the tailgate and talk to somebody in that setting, and then be able to go to a dinner and address another crowd with a suit and tie on and be able to fit in. So you've got to wear, I guess, a lot of different hats and be able to tailor your message down to the people that you're talking with. You've got to be able to listen to people and see what they're saying. Sometimes you won't agree with it, but you need to listen and see what they're saying and see if you can't get to the point that you truly understand what they're trying to tell you. And, you know, working with the people you've got, hard work ethic. I mean, the day starts when the sun comes up. I always approach the day, it started when the sun comes up, it ends about when the sun goes down. And there's no problem you can't solve if you put enough effort toward it. And I always didn't mind working the hours because I felt like I was getting something out of it. And that was always important to me, is that put enough work into a problem and in your job that you get it done. And I've always approached work like this. Work has always been a hobby to me. It's never been like work. I've always enjoyed doing what I'm doing. And I figured if it ever got to the point it got to be like work, then it's time for somebody to do something else. Well, retirement, I don't really look at it that way, but I guess it's time for me to do something else. But time to give some of these young whippersnappers a chance to move on up. But, you know, enjoying your work is really important. Well, I think things are changing a lot. They've changed a lot, and they're changing a lot more because you've got so many different people that want to use the lands that we have and use the resources we have that are not the typical users that we have had in the past. You know, we got used to dealing with hunters, fishermen, trappers, and we kind of honed in on how to work with those people. The new biologist of the future is going to have to deal with those people, but at the same time, he's going to have to learn to deal with other users like bird watchers, hikers, horseback riders, four-wheelers, the other uses that some can be compatible with what we have to do on our lands, and some of those uses are not compatible for our lands. And you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. And that's going to be a challenge, because it's a challenge now. The only thing I can say for like young wildlifers, don't be so picky about what job you take. Get your foot in the door, prove yourself, work hard, show that you know, there's merit to promote you, and that you're willing to learn new skills, and try to make everybody you work with better because of it, and you'll have a good career at this agency. You won't agree with everything they do, but I never know anybody that's worked anywhere that agrees with everything that their company or other employer would do. But with the Wildlife Commission, it's kind of what you want to make of it. And if you want it to be good, you can make it good.